So the role of a chaplain really, does it go beyond the spiritual in terms of is it a counselling role with spiritual guidance, or is it, are they running is it like running church services, or what does that role
Yeah,
look like?
absolutely. So over the years, I've run 7 different army churches in sort of garrison towns. But of course,
Mm-hmm.
when the soldiers deployed, I deployed with them. Um, One of the things I really miss now as a parish minister is working in a chaplaincy team.
Mm-hmm.
So when we deployed, it's rarely you would just have one battalion or one chaplain. You'd have a whole team of people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but all chaplains are there to provide 3 things: pastoral care, spiritual support, and provide moral guidance to the soldier and their families.
Mm.
Pastoral care, spiritual support, moral guidance, and soldiers and officers understand that.
Mm-hmm.
So when a young soldier, boy or girl, joins the military at one of the recruit depots, be it as a 16-year-old or even as an adult, in the first week that they're at the training depot, they will be introduced to one of the training chaplains,
Mm-hmm.
who in some cases has to explain, this is what I am. I wear crosses on my
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
collars. I am a minister or a priest of whatever denomination. This is what I can do for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of
Yeah.
them have got no church background whatsoever.
Well, I was just about to ask that. So for those with no church background at all, is it interesting then to provide a level of support where I suppose as Christians you'd be used to this standard spiritual guidance you may give someone, but then it's completely, well, not totally different, but it's a different way of looking at it when it's on a secular basis. Is
I,
that?
th- I think I think one of the big things, Josh, is that you're with people all the time. So they talk about the ministry of presence.
Mm-hmm.
You're actually with people morning, noon, and night, Monday to Friday, as
Mm-hmm.
well as Saturday and Sunday. So you're not just seeing people for an hour on a Sunday morning.
Mm.
You've actually got the
Real
opportunity.
relationships.
It's the relationships you're building up in the workplace, that you're building up when you're doing PT with them, that you're building up when you're in exercise, that you're building up when you're in operations.
Mm-hmm.
And you're the one that they will come to. And there's no greater compliment paid to a chaplain when a
Mm-hmm.
soldier or an officer comes to you and says, Padre, because that's the neutral title, you're not called by your military rank.
Mm-hmm.
Padre, can I have a word?
Mm-hmm.
And that only comes around because you are seen as a trusted friend and
Yes,
colleague.
yes, that the relationship is there to a level
Exactly.
that they can, confide in you.
Yeah, and so going back to time in Germany, I was stationed twice in Germany as a chaplain, and a young soldier comes to see and says, Padre, can I have a word? He comes, he arranged to meet, and he said, I'm really worried about my grandmother. My grandmother brought me up.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother's seriously ill. My grandmother's dying. I would like to go back to Scotland for her funeral,
Mm-hmm.
but the military won't let me go.
Yeah.
Why will they not let you go? Because you're needed here. Secondly, because your grandmother was not your next of kin. Your mother, who you don't have a great relationship with, is your next of kin. Your
Mm-hmm.
grandmother wasn't. So I'm sorry, but you're not going to be able to go to your grandmother's funeral,
Yeah.
or she's seriously ill. Then you end up talking to this young person, trying to help them through this difficult time,
Mm-hmm.
and you're providing pastoral care for them, and it's a relationship you can carry on when the next time you meet them in the barracks or
Mm-hmm.
out somewhere, and then you're able to build a relationship which allows you to say, "Can I say a prayer for you and your grandmother and your family?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, they'll say, "Yeah, that'd be great." Or,
Yeah.
"Would you like to come to the church and we'll meet and discuss it?"
It's funny
Light a
because I
candle.
I hear that very often actually, that people are hesitant to offer prayer to others, but then when you actually do give that offer of prayer, people very rarely turn it down, because that's it's a kind gesture no matter what culture you're really from, to know that someone's is there to pray for you.
Yes, and you can say absolutely pray for them. Theodore Bailey Hardy, who was known as Woodbine Willie during the First World War,
Mm-hmm.
used to say, "You can pray with your soldiers sometimes, but you must pray for them always."
Mm-hmm.
And David Connor, who's the Bishop of Windsor, who used to be the Bishop of the Armed Forces, David Connor used to say, "A soldier will forgive you anything as a chaplain, except not saying your prayers."
Right.
So
Yeah.
the soldier expects you to be a good chaplain,
Yes.
They don't expect you to be a good army officer.
Right. Yes. Well,
But
I
at the
guess,
same time,
yeah,
the army expects you to do that regardless.
that's from that way that I guess they view you as distinct, but
Yeah.
you're part of the fabric of their of the armed forces, yet distinctive, and um so I was going to ask you then, in terms of actually providing the support for these for the soldiers. Do you find that similar topics come up sometimes? Do you find that I guess there's that whole thing of PTSD is a big issue and things of that nature, or even do people find maybe they have moral objections to things that are going on? Are there recurring themes that come up, or is there a million different topics you've had to deal with over your
Yeah, and
time?
it's quite often very random things. With young soldiers, a lot to do with relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a lot to do with Padre can have a word. I've got my girlfriend pregnant. Padre, I've been accused of rape. Why did she
Wow.
accuse you of rape, not anybody else? Padre, I'm stuck in the army for the next 3 years and I don't want to be here anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, what can I do to get out? What we did always when I was in a battalion was I worked very closely with the doctor. So you have a regimental medical officer.
Mm-hmm.
So occasionally I would see somebody was suffering from stress or post-traumatic stress or some level of trauma. And they came to see me. I would say, "Have you seen the doctor?"
Mm-hmm.
And they said, "No, I don't want to go to the doctor." I said, "Look, I tell you what, I can't help you with what I think might be wrong with you, but why don't I go with you to the doctor?
Yes, that level of moral support
And I
that they
will
may
walk
need.
with you and we will look after you.
Mm.
And I know the doctor is a good chap and he will look after you and give you what you need and signpost you to where you need to go."
Mm-hmm.
And similarly, the doctor occasionally would say to me, "David, would you see somebody because they need just a bit of listening to.
Yeah.
Um, they need they're feeling a bit fragile. They need a bit of space. Are you prepared to spend time with them?" And of course you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And do you have a duty of confidentiality really in that role? Um.
Absolutely. Some churches do have the veil of the confessional.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, some of my Roman Catholic colleagues, if something was said in that context, it would be really difficult. I've always taken the view in confidentiality that unless I thought that somebody's own life or somebody else's life was at risk,
Mm-hmm.
I would, of course, preserve that confidentiality. If there was a high risk scenario, I would then probably elicit the support of the doctor to try and get somebody sectioned if they had to be,
Mm-hmm.
or to ensure that the officers who were also looking after the same individual, and it's not just soldiers, these are sometimes officers who get
Yes.
themselves in
Yeah.
trouble, that whoever was in their hierarchy, their chain of command, was also equally aware of their needs. And
Mm-hmm.
we did what we could to support them at their time of need.
Mm-hmm. And the other question I had was, the role of chaplain. Did you find that then, in cases turned into, I suppose by nature it's evangelical, but did it turn into that sort of through these relationships where you were finding yourself walking people to in their faith to maybe to be with to be a believer, or to be do you find you were walking through that kind of evangelical process, or was it very much restraining from that but still providing that level of support?
I think the level of support is for me was the key.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when I was the deputy chaplain general before I became the chaplain general, I had some gardening leave.
Mm-hmm.
We had 6 weeks off, which my wife said I didn't do any gardening. But I had time to think and reflect and pray about what I was going to set up as my priorities when I became the chaplain general.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the garden, literally in the garden one day, and my wife said to me, "Where are you going?" I said, "I need to go in and write something down," because it suddenly came to me, what is the relationship between the soldier and the chaplain? What does the soldier and their families look for or seek from their chaplain?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a divine inspiration that I came to the conclusion that they wanted somebody who was prayerful, who
Mm-hmm.
was professional, and who had a positive effect upon their lives and the lives of their families.
Mm-hmm.
Prayerful, professional, and positive. And in return, as the chaplain general, I tried to ensure that all our ministers and priests who came to the army as chaplains were ministerially fulfilled, vocationally nurtured, and professionally equipped to do the job that God had called them to do.
Mm-hmm.
There's a national shortage of clergy, and we were very privileged that the churches, what we call descending churches, the Church of England, Catholic Church, Methodist Church, and the United Board, as well as the Church of Scotland, allowed ministers and priests to come and serve alongside soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something the army really wanted, and it was something that we did our best to recruit. So our recruitment was quite a big agenda, and we recruited some really high caliber people.
Yeah,
because I felt that, and they had to go through the Army Officer Selection Board and be selected properly, because I didn't feel we were serving the individual as a minister or a priest or the army well if we were recruiting people who were not up to the mark.